ashamed. I'm your host tonight. We have a great convo for you tonight. Can you do me one favor? If you would like, share, and subscribe. Yes, we're on YouTube. We are moving right along, sharing, and we're the voice of the nation of pain. We're telling stories, telling truth. So I'll see you right back in a few minutes. Thank you so much. Like and share. Start a watch party. I look on some of your pages and you are sharing the stories, and it is really opening up the voice of the silent person. I can't just say woman because it could be male or female. It could be children. As a matter of fact, tonight we're going to talk about stacking life's issue. I coined that phrase, stacking life, because that's what we do. I use these books for illustration. A pile, a heap of things lying on top of each other. That's what I call stacking. And isn't it precise? A heap of things lying. And a lot of us, we're not living in our truth. And I'm not just calling you out as a liar, but when you have left things unresolved, sometimes you're not really living in your truth. So that's what we want to talk about tonight. I would like to share with you this subject. I'm not a gossiper. I don't tell people stories that don't give me the permission to tell it. Oftentimes I'm calling on women, or they're calling me, and some guys too, they're calling me, sharing their stories, wanting to have a voice, finally having a voice. And so we're not here a gossip. A gossip is a person that habitually shares rumors, truths, or tell people's stories without their permission. The truths that I tell are by permission, and also I often tell my story. So on this week, I spoke with a couple of women. And last week, we dealt with triggers. And I call them, and sometimes I'll ask them, is this a good time to talk about this subject? Because for most of us, it is very painful. And as we said on last week, there are triggers. There are things that even I don't want to deal with today in my life. Some things I don't want to go back to. And the only reason I do is to help someone come out of that dead place, that dead space, to have a voice, to tell their story so they can be free. So I was talking to a couple of ladies. I'll start with the one. Years ago, I had this girls' night out. We had a pajama party competition, and we had a moment for every woman to share something in their life or tell us something that they always wanted to do or experience and they have not. One lady said, "Well, I always wanted to sing." So we gave her the mic and gave her the floor and say, "Well, sing," and she sang. And someone else said they always wanted to do something, and we just consecutively shared around the room, whoever wanted to. And one lady, I believe she was in her 50s, 60s, early 60s at that time, and she came up with, she says, "I was sexually molested by some boys in high school." She was 14 years old. She's never told. Some of you would say that, I think the term is, these guys pulled a train on her. And she talked a little bit about it, and we let it go. We never bothered. We let her finish her conversation. So years later, today, I called her this week, and I asked her some questions. I asked her, would she like to share her story, or do she mind talking about it? And I asked her, "Is this a good time?" She said, "Sure." I said, "Have you talked to anyone since you talked to us?" We're talking about piling life's issues. 14 years ago is down here at the bottom, and she's went all the way. Hi, Latasha. She's went all the way and never told her story. So today I asked her, say, since that day that we had that outing, have you spoke with anyone? Have you had therapy? She says she spoke to one person. She's never even really shared it with her husband. And she shared some things with me. She said she was 14 years old, and she had told somebody that she liked a guy. And they went and told the guy. These guys was like 3 years older than her. And she told them that, "Hey, I like this guy." So there was a event at the school, and the guy say, "Hey, Trigger is over here." That's what we'll call him, Trigger. "He's over here, and he want to talk to you." So she went in the back, or on the bus or something, and he was there, and they raped her. And they was screaming at her, and they said she better not tell. They said she better not say anything, blase, blase. So, I asked her, why didn't she tell? And she gave me some of the reasons, and we're going to get into that. But when I look at her life and I know some of her experience, I know that she stacked one thing on top of the other and never resolving this thing. She told me that she always felt less than. She said she was very, very smart, but she always felt less than. Hi, make sure you guys start a watch party. She said, "I always felt less than." She started crying. I said, "Are you crying?" She says, "Yes." I said, "Do we need to stop?" She says, "No, let it flow." Can you imagine now being 70 and never telling your real truth because of embarrassment, because of something that some of you will judge, or some of you, not my audience, but I'm talking about those way out there. Some people will make you feel bad. She said she never, I can't imagine, never, ever, ever, and it's just eating. And still today, it's still eating. So she just cried a little bit, and I just let her talk. I wanted to get my questions in. I had a why, what, when, and where, but I had to listen. You all need to listen, and you need to stop stacking. Stop stacking, just like a stack of books. It's a pile of mess. It's a pile of mess, and you wonder why. We tell ourselves we are really achieving our goals and reaching heights and never talking about it. Then I talked to another lady I called, and she began to burst in tears and cry. I was like, okay. I'm telling you, the reason I want them to come, I want you to hear their voices. I want you to know that these stories are not just created, that they're not a figment of my imagination or yours. And you have a right to talk about it because you're helping someone else. This girl told me from the age of, I have her story written down, from the age of 7 to 11. From the age of 7 to 11, Her sister's husband molested her. She said he never was able to penetrate her, but he fingered her, and she's gonna come on. But she had some surgery today, and she couldn't come on today. So I said, well, we'll wait and bring you on. And I would love for other people to hear your voices so they'll know that Sheila is just not creating these stories. Mr. Anthony and Broderick, we're not here just creating these stories. We're trying to bring freedom to a nation, to a generation. Because listen, this girl said the guy, he was molesting her, fondling her, and she said, if you don't, she's 11 now. She said, if you don't stop, I'm going to tell. So he stopped messing with her. And years later, her nieces, who were at that time, when she was 11, they were 5. So she was 11, they were 5, and then when they turned 18, one day the little girl, the 18-year-old, was getting into it with her mom, and she said, anyway, your husband has been raping me. So she ran to the grandmother's house where my friend was, and all of it came up, and my friend said she just burst out at 18 and said, well, he did it to me too. And the sister, they say I think she said she was intoxicated. And you know, we're trying to clearly remember these stories as clear as we can. That's why it's so important to write your stories down. And she said it was chaotic after that. And she said last week my story really triggered some things. And every time they come to town. But here's the thing I want you to understand. When she didn't tell, he went to the next children, the next 2 girls in the family, and she said he brutally abused them, sodomized them, smothered them, beat them. She didn't even go into details because I'm still trying to get her story. I asked her, did they report it as a crime at that time in Minneapolis? She said that the statute of limitation was passed, and now, you know, they open it where there's no statute of limitation. He's 71 years old, so now the pain is here. The stacks and stacks of problems is here. And this is what happens when we're silenced. This is what happens when we're embarrassed. This is what happens when we are ashamed of what goes on in our household. And let me tell you something, people, church people, God-fearing people, God-loving people. None of you are perfect. We already know that. We knew that when you were preaching and singing and anointed. We knew that you wasn't perfect. We know that you have secrets. We know that you have pain. We know that you are trying to keep things from people getting exposed, from your families being embarrassed. But I come to tell you that everybody got 1 or 2. They say 1 out of every 3rd person is being molested. So count in your family, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and maybe not. But if we just let it go on, look what happened to my friend's nieces. And now not only did she feel bad that she didn't tell for her own freedom, but now she feels bad that it happened to her nieces because of her silence. And some of you need to stop saying that it didn't happen because you weren't there. Okay? Anybody have any questions? So this is a very sensitive subject tonight. I would like to laugh and have fun and crack a few jokes, but it's really not funny. And it is pathetic how we hide behind anything to let these things go by. So I'm going to talk about stacking. Look at the books. I just have a few pile of books, maybe 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 books. I want you to use for illustration that these books are an issue that you may have, a secret, a problem, an experience of being molested. Yeah, I know you don't want to tell on your brother. I know you don't want to tell on your sister, your father, your auntie, your cousin, your pastors, and the list goes on. Your mentor. I'm very thankful that I have good mentors. And while I'm at it, one mentor I have is Dr. Stacia Pierce, her and her daughter Ariane, and they teach us about wealth. And I appreciate her. I just wanted to give a shout out to her tonight for the things that she teaches us and the books she introduces us to. And that's what I do. I try to keep myself in a healthy atmosphere and to alleviate some of this stacking life issues. Each book you see here represents an issue that has not been resolved. That's the problem, that not been resolved. Have you ever met a person that displays anger, frustration, and they may just be plain old mean? Have any of you ever met some plain old mean folks? Yeah, if you go to church, you'd have met some. They may go from 0 to 100. I love the church. I love prayer. But we need to deal with it. That's a lot of us go there, but all our issues are stuck up under the songs, under the benches, under the pulpits. We need to be healed too. We need to be healed. We need therapists too. Have you ever met a person who laughs at anything and everything? Just everything is funny. It could be because the situations are so heavy and so hard that they laugh to keep from crying. I remember a person in church just used to bust out and laugh at everything. Come to find out, they had some hurt pain. They had some sexual molestation in their family. It could be a hurtful situation. That's why they're laughing. Their feelings may get hurt. And at the end of the conversation, they laugh. You can hurt their feelings. They're still laughing. But they're really angry. They laugh to keep from crying. They laugh to keep from cussing you out. They laugh to keep from dealing with the real pain. That's where we got a lot of comedians from. Remember Richard Pryor? Laughed to keep from talking about how he was raised in the prostituting house and he, hurt not having a father, so he cracked us up. But at the end of his journey, his life, he had a pile of issues that was unresolved, covered up with laughter, and money cannot set these issues free. I was listening to Lil Mo, the rapper, who talked about how she used to wear baggy clothes, and she said that she was molested and silenced, and now people are talking about it. So you don't have to be embarrassed. You can tell your story. I will tell your story. We don't have to say your names. We just need to know your truth, and it is a crime. It could be possibly be a life stacking, putting their problems on top of the next problems without resolving. You cannot push sexual abuse, touching me, unconsensual sex, sodomizing, issues after issues. And this is the thing we do. They come and report it, and we act as if they're lying. Why did they wait 10 years? It doesn't matter. I told you on a couple of nights ago, Tuesdays ago, just listen. It's hard. They may feel like they can't do anything about their situation, and it is hard to face. They can't fix it, so they don't even try or care. And that's why we self-medicate with drugs, alcohol, sex, church. We hide big clothes, too tight clothes, loose clothes, got to show it all. We feel worthless. One of the ladies I talked to today that was crying, she said She never felt like she had a voice. She can't stand it when her husband talks loud and screams. Now, what do you think that does to her life? Does he? I said, have you ever talked to him about it? She says, no. And so when he's yelling and she's going into this defense mode, he don't understand that it came from, maybe he would comfort her, and maybe he would stop yelling if he knew her story, if he cared enough. But that's been part of their marriage. So every time he does that to her, she goes into her shock, she goes into her defense, she goes into it, probably replacing the perpetrators with him. Can you imagine? Every time he screams at her, she's thinking about those guys did me like that, and now you're doing me like that. And that can destroy a marriage. That can destroy a relationship. We got to communicate. And I know everybody has a time. Everybody don't want to get on Facebook and share. Everybody may not have the kind of husband that you can talk to. Well, you need to find a therapist or someone. And if you can't share your truth, you can get naked with a person physically, but you can't get naked mentally. You can't get naked emotionally. That don't seem like a good marriage. We need to go a little bit deeper. So we know that some things cannot be fixed. The man is 71, like I talked about earlier. What they gonna do with him? Put him in prison? I just hope he's not over there molesting other kids, because it came out later. And I'm going to get my friend on here. She said she would. It came out later that this man's father his own father tied him up and sodomized him. But that doesn't give an excuse for him to do what he has done to these nieces. It's never an excuse for you to slide by. It's never an excuse for you to be mean. It's never an excuse for you to mistreat people because of what has happened to you. They never talked about it. They never get justice. My hurt and my pain is irrelevant. Why are your issues unresolved? If we live in truth, we live in an era of voices. Everyone is talking. Everybody have a show. The dogs are talking. The birds are talking. The alligators, everything is talking. Everybody's chirping. Why are you still locked in to your pain, your embarrassment? And yes, I'm going to get down to some of these reasons. Why haven't you told anyone? Why haven't you said anything? And if you can't go to your family, or you won't go to your family, you got to get it out. So when my friend was talking today and she was crying, I just let her get it out. And then it began to flow. And that brings healing. And that takes that embarrassment out. And I created an atmosphere of no judgment, of no shame. She has a right to tell it now. Why she didn't tell it years ago, she told me she was scared. Those boys were screaming at her and said, if you tell, we're going to beat your mama. The other girl said she also said that her father wasn't around, and that's why they targeted her. A lot of these fatherless homes, or if they feel a man is not going to fight them, they'll target that household. And they'll target that person. She said she believes she was targeted because they know she didn't have a father. Or they kind of search it out. They really analyze and research who and what who they're gonna molest. So why haven't you told anybody? Anybody out there? Hi, Walton, Latasha. Hi, Angel, Jill, Muhammad. Hi. Why haven't you spoke up? It's not just for you, but it's for our children's children. Because if you don't speak up to Uncle, what about when Uncle become a grandfather? He's still going to be doing that. He's still going to be. What about when you leave at 18 and there's other children around? It just continue. Please like and share. Please, let's get some other people on here to hear our voices. Let our voices be heard. You don't want, why haven't you told anyone? Okay, number one, it says, I didn't want anyone to talk about me. That's what one of the ladies said. She was, can you imagine being a teenager? I can. I was 16, high school. Can you imagine being a teenager and everybody, you didn't hear anybody. She said, I never heard nobody else talk about it. And everyone looking at you, and you feel so unclean at the time of the sexual abuse. So can you imagine telling someone at school? And I believe she said she thought everybody was already whispering. Then, okay, now you hear these extra voices. She thought everybody was talking about her. She thought everybody knew. I thought my neighborhood knew, because I remember one of the girls saying, didn't he molest you? No, we were in a room and all of us talking about being a virgin. And I was like, I'm still a virgin. They was like, no, you know he molested you. Now, how did they? So their parents, these were kids my age, their parents was saying that this was happening to us. It hadn't happened yet. But obviously the neighbors, people know. They can tell the way the household is fixed sometimes. I don't know. Maybe she had deep discernment. So you don't want to be the talk of the town per se, because for some reason we'll talk about the person that has been abused and never say a word about the abuser. We keep them privately. Another reason people don't tell is you don't want people to feel that you were weak, especially if you're a man. What does that sound like? Somebody then laid you out and broke into you and emasculated you and made you feel less than a man, made you feel less, made you feel empty. I mean, it's an empty feeling that we experience. Sometimes nothing is going on in your head. And then, you just feel that people are going to bring it back on you. Isn't that what we do? Isn't that what we do when it comes to sexual abuse? We minimize the person that has had the abuse happen to them. Another thing, we don't want to get anyone in trouble. We're already in trouble. I'm in trouble because I'm in pain. I'm in trouble because I'm hurting. Hey, Shelby, I'm in trouble because you hurt me. I'm already in trouble. The young lady said to me today, she said, I feel like for all of my life has been messed up. I said to her, I believe it is a life sentence. I heard one preacher say, he said, it's just like murder, the way that he brought it out. And it's just like murder. And just think a person constantly, you got to look at them, be silent, and they're constantly doing this to our children in your households while you're sleeping, while maybe the Lord is nudging you to get up. And then you're afraid to do something. So we sacrifice our children and our children's children. We sacrifice our families. We sacrifice our hearts. And we become cold. Another thing, we don't tell because we don't want anybody doing it to us again. For some reason, it seems that we become victim and then we become victim again. It happens over and over again. I had someone come to me and she just blurted out. She's a grown woman now. She has medicated her life with meth. And you know that meth is some strong messed up stuff. And everybody was talking, oh, she didn't take care of children. She don't do this. She don't do that. She's self-medicated. because of pain. And then one day she just blurted out to me, you know, that her sister's man had been having sex with her, molesting her for years when she was a little girl. And she didn't tell. And when she told her sister said, well, so, maybe she didn't say so, but that's what I remember. She said, well, your daddy did it to me. I'm talking about two sisters. They had different fathers, same mother. Lives, stacks of issues, never addressed it. And now just beginning to blurt it out after you have lost your self-value, your self-worth. And I know some of you say, well, that's no excuse. I didn't get on drugs. Well, that's no excuse. I didn't self-medicate. Well, maybe you were able to handle something, or maybe it struck somewhere in her that it didn't strike in you. But our generation is in pain. Why a lot of times we talk about, look what they wear. Well, their mothers is in pain. Their mothers are in pain. Their mothers never told anybody. We just began to have this discussion and have a voice because we want to talk about everything else. And this lady said, one of them said, she said, I never felt like the sexual abuse hindered me. I always was ambitious. I always mastered things. But she don't know, while she was talking to me, she was self-medicating. She was drinking, smoking, and I'm not judging her. But those are the vices I used to use when I was in pain. Drinking, smoking, trying to relax, trying to find a way to be cool, to chill. But she don't even see it. So sometimes we have a level of success and we think it's okay to do some of the things that we're doing to our own bodies. And in the long run, it wears on us. In the long run, one lady I know lost all of her children because she didn't get to talk about who molested her. She didn't get to talk about her pain. So she just didn't care, and I think she's trying to recover. She's trying to recover. But it's so much is lost. So much is lost, and to outsiders it seemed like all you can just do is take a bath and wipe it off, but it doesn't work like that. It is mental, it is emotional, it is in my spirit, in my belly, my physical being. So much is lost, but we can recover. We can get to restoration. Another reason we don't tell, because we're threatened. You better not tell or else. You better not tell or I'm going to hurt your parents. You better not tell or I'll kill you. I've told you I've been to funerals when I lived in Chicago. Uncle raped his niece and he murdered her. I went to the girl's funeral, murdered her. And it happened not just one time, it happened often. And when people threaten violence, it's scary. Another reason we don't tell, because we don't know how to put it into words. Is anybody out there? You just don't know how to verbalize. I may be bringing some clarity to some of you, but some of you don't know how to verbalize. It can't come out right. It doesn't matter how you say it, honey. Just say it. Get it out. Get some power in your voice. Get some strength in your voice. Take your power back. You don't have to articulate it in any kind of order. You have to get it out of your spirit and let your truth be your truth. And talk to someone. Some people is going to wait till everybody die. They wouldn't let me publish my book until the people were dead. The publisher said, no, we can't publish this because the people weren't dead. So I had to wait till the people died before I can publish. And some of you may have to wait. This thing is very deep. What do you guys think about that? Anthony, Broderick? The threats and the not being able to verbalize. Get a mic. They need, see how you can be on the spot? Can y'all hear me over there? Is my mic on? You can. Y'all need to be on the spot. This ain't no cute subject, but they love to chat on the sidelines. I want to hear.
Yes, it definitely causes much pain. Just from the few men that have shared, it's very tough for a man to talk about it as well because a lot of times they feel like their manhood has been robbed or stolen. So I definitely encourage those that are tuning in, and to the women who have children that have experienced this, definitely, if you can somehow get them to hear these types of uh, venues, it just lets them know that they're not by themselves.
Right.
My last statement is simply this: the biggest vice that works against those who have experienced sexual abuse is making them feel like they either deserved it or they're the only ones, and so they feel isolated, and it really causes too much pain to relive it. So that number six that's
Wow.
showing on the screen, that really, I can only imagine every time you share it, you relive it until you get to the point where I don't know that you can ever forget it, or and I definitely won't be insensitive and say move past it. But um, if it causes too much pain to say something about it because you relive it, imagine when you get to the point that you can say it and it's not so much reliving done. And then that's when you're no longer stacking um, these issues. Now you're using those issues to step on top of the stack and be able to be productive in your life.
Wow. Great word. Great word. Step on top of your stack. Yes. Do you have anything you want to say, Broderick? These are the
I did.
guys they're sitting here producing. Go ahead, Broderick.
I ditto what Pastor just said.
Okay, okay. We're going to let you slide this time. So, when you don't know how to verbalize it, speak on it anyway. It is too, if it is too painful to bring up again is the reason some people say we're just going to leave it alone. They're going to leave it in the past. How can you leave it in the past? Sooner or later it's going to manifest. If it was left in the past, when I talked to the lady today who hadn't talked about it over 10 years, I think we had that party. Why was she crying today? Why was she feeling it today? Because it exposed some hurt. It exposed some sensitivity in her. It exposed some pain that she had left behind, that she could not back then verbalize, but today she was able to get some power back and say and let it out and know that there was nothing wrong with her. There was nothing wrong with her at 14 liking a boy or thinking he's cute or telling people he's cute. That's what we do. But they were the perpetrator. They were the violators of her freedom. They violated her. And there's nothing, zero, did she have anything to do with what they did. Um, I want to ask you a question. Those of you that keep silent, those of you that never say a word, those of you, and like I told you all last week, I know some people say, why do you keep talking about it? Because I keep hearing about it. Because I try to leave the subject alone, but it keeps coming into my front door. People keep knocking. People keep calling. You all don't say anything about Shannon and Skip when they talk about football every day. And so this is important to me. I want to bring healing. We want to bring restoration. We want to bring freedom because some of you need to be set free. Where have your silence got you? Where has life stacking gotten you when you didn't tell anybody? When you let everything pile up in your life, guess what? Sometimes you didn't manage your marriages well. You didn't manage your relationships well. You didn't manage your children well. You didn't manage your finances well. You didn't feel valuable. Your clothes wasn't right. You didn't feel that you were